San Francisco, it's Rex Broadcasting Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez. Are you ready? Let's get it on!
How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours. Brian Alvarez and I talking pro wrestling. We'll be talking about whatever subjects you want to talk about on pro wrestling around the world, and we got a lot of subjects to talk about. If you were in Philadelphia last night, you probably saw some wrestling. Actually, maybe you didn't, but there were 3 shows in Philadelphia yesterday. There was the Ring of Honor show, which I have heard was the best show in the history of Ring of Honor, and that's, even though Ring of Honor hasn't been around for a long time, that's a mouthful because just about every show from Ring of Honor that I've seen, in fact, every show that I've seen has been good. Some have been great. Most have been great. WWE, of course, ran last night in Philadelphia, and Combat Zone Wrestling as well. So if you went to a couple of those shows, or especially the Ring of Honor show, well, any of them, give us a call. We're kind of interested in what you have to say. Our phone lines are lit up right now, so you're going to get a busy signal if you call at 1-800-878-PLAY. But as soon as we start going through some calls, there will be plenty of lines open. Brian Alvarez, of course, here for 2 hours. Also, second hour guest will be Shane Douglas, XPW, which is also running in Philadelphia. A lot of stuff in Philadelphia. Brian, is that good or bad, all of that? I guess it's good if you live in Philadelphia, but it's probably not good for Philadelphia a year from now.
I thought it was interesting when they had the whole thing with CZW and Ring of Honor deciding to kind of put their differences aside and work together. And I guess they did the doubleheader last night. But, I mean, it all depends. If it's hot enough, you could have all those promotions and they'll all do well, and that's great. But I've seen it up here where, you know, we've had, and there's not as many promotions or anything like that, but, you know, two or three groups running in one city or whatever, like in Cloverdale, just got totally killed by, you know, we were running there and ECCW was running there, and it killed it. But Philadelphia is a different place, so if it's doing good, it's doing good.
Well, it did good last night. WWE didn't do all that good, although obviously it drew far more than the other ones. I think they did about 4,000 people at the First Union Center, but they're not, you know, I mean, they're not doing big house show crowds anywhere. Oh, we actually have a caller about Ring of Honor, so we'll probably be talking about that in the next couple of minutes. Next 2 weeks, a lot of big shows. Survivor Series coming up a week from tonight. Brock Lesnar against the Big Show and the Elimination Chamber, which I guess on Tuesday is when we're going to find out what the Elimination Chamber is, right?
Oh, the special?
I think that they said they're going to announce it on the special. Yeah.
Well, that's good. We kind of sort of got it last week, but it was the blueprint and everything like that, and who even knows if, you know, that was a blueprint of the actual thing. But I guess, in fact, Jim Ross, the funny thing was Jim Ross and the Ross reports talk about how they're spending a ton of money on this, and I was just thinking back to the dying days of WCW.
Yeah, let's buy it. A
ton of money on cars exploding and stuff like that, and then it died.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got to head to our first break. We'll be back with Brian, and, of course, all your phone calls right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline US Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're here for 2 hours every Sunday night from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Time with Wrestling Observer Live. Of course, Shane Douglas will be with us in the second hour. We were talking about some of the shows that were coming up over the next 2 weeks. Of course, you know, I guess that I should be used to it, and I actually kind of am by this point. But it still perplexes me that here we are 7 days away from Survivor Series, and officially they have announced 3 matches, one of which is a women's hardcore match with Trish Stratus and Victoria, which nobody really cares about. We have the 2 title matches. I'm presuming we're going to have the 3-way tag team title match for the SmackDown brand, which will, you know, probably make it a great show. I guess they'll put the cage on last.
They have to.
The elimination, because you can't put Brock Lesnar and Big Show on last, especially from what I hear about their house show matches. And I'm pretty sure they're going to be doing Jamie Noble and Billy Kidman for the Cruiserweight title, but that hasn't even been announced yet. See, that's 5 matches, so they probably get 2 more in there announced over the next couple of days. You know, Bubba Ray Dudley and people like that. You know, just maybe some fill-in stuff. Maybe some type of elimination tag. You know, the traditional Survivor Series match. Maybe they'll do something like that.
Yeah. I think WWE is just, I think that they believe that everybody's just going to buy their stuff anyway.
They can't believe that if you know, there was a time when the numbers justified that thought, but the numbers have not justified that since, the summer.
Well, I understand that, but when you look at it, there's no other explanation for why they do this stuff. Why would you only announce 2 matches?
Because they're not organized. It's, I think, hey, W1, which is the other big show that's coming Sunday, we're 7 days away from that. They've only announced 2 matches, too, and that's a show that, quite frankly, those matches should have been announced a month ahead of time, because when you're having mixed matches, you've got to, sell people and hype the intrigue of, these guys that never meet each other, like, K1 guys or Pride guys against pro wrestlers. And just throwing them in at the last day, there's not enough time to build intrigue. I mean, that's,
But how can you do this over and over again? You know what I mean?
Everyone is
the first time that they've ever just announced 2 matches. They do this every single month, and business keeps getting worse. And it's the house shows. They're still not doing those local promos, even though house show business is getting worse.
Actually, you know what? On the house shows, they're actually they don't do local promos on television always. I guess it varies by market. I'm not sure. I mean, I think that they kind of think that buying time on SmackDown is too expensive in many markets, which is kind of weird because that is your target audience. They do promos in a lot of markets with matches, radio stations, but that probably hits.
That doesn't work because
you're hitting such a.
It's still dying.
Yeah, and it's hitting such a small percentage. I mean, you're hitting such a small percentage of your viewers. I to this day I can't believe that, like, every Saturday night when I watch Velocity and Confidential, leading up to whenever they come to town, that they don't even promo that they're coming. You don't buy something on TNN. How expensive is TNN from 10 p.m. to midnight? It's got to be, and you're hitting, on Velocity and Confidential, you're hitting your real hardcores. I mean, the people who are watching that, those are people who are willing to go to house shows.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases.
Why would you do a radio ad that's just going to go to, 10 million people, the majority of which are not wrestling fans, and then you've got these wrestling fans watching your TV show, and all you're doing is announcing a date. I mean, even EMLL, they'll have that little crawl at the bottom of the screen where they'll announce the dates, who's going to be on the show, all of that. WWF has none of that. It's just, we have a show coming up, and you'll buy a ticket. And no one does.
And no one does, yeah. Speaking of which, did you see Confidential last night?
No, but I heard they did not air the Scott Steiner thing.
They didn't air the Scott Steiner thing. That Confidential was, I thought last week was like, when last week was over, it was like they've quit on the show. I mean, you should have seen last night. I mean, talk about quitting on a show. They had 2 segments on Rico as a police officer, which actually I liked. Only
no one else is going to watch.
But no one's going to watch it because, one, they buried Rico so underground that no one cares, and number 2, it totally undermines his character in so many ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I just laughed last week when I got the ratings in the final quarter did a .33.
Hey, I don't think it's going to be last week was a repeat show, so I could see that, people turning up. But last night's won't do appreciably better. I mean, because that was just a show. They did talk about the blind date stuff for a few minutes, and it's funny is if you read the Observer this week, which people who get the Observer, you'll be more interested in blind date than they did hyping it on their own frickin' TV show.
Well, that's because they're not going to bury Jackie Gaeta like you did.
Yeah, that's true. Have you read that?
Yes, I did, and I want to see Blind Date very bad.
You must watch it. It's Friday the 15th with Jackie Gaeta.
Isn't hers on Wednesday?
What? You may be right. All I know is I got 5 of them, and they're supposed to be in order, and Jackie Gaeta was the Friday.
Okay.
The first one was Maven. I think the second one was Christopher Nowinski. Maven, there's nothing really much to watch. I mean, there's nothing wrong. The shows aren't boring, but nothing special. Christopher Nowinski's show was kind of cool if you like Christopher Nowinski. The Wednesday show was Nydia. I know, or Linda Miles or Nydia. I don't even remember now. But they were Wednesday, Thursday, and they're okay. Nydia, believe it or not, Nydia was the least conceited of the 5.
I can believe that, actually.
She was so I don't want to say normal. She wasn't normal. That's not the right word, but she just seemed like some girl who just, likes guys and, doesn't really, she wants to go out with guys that make her laugh, and she really doesn't care if they're good looking or not, whereas I think that everybody else, kind of because they're TV stars, I think they were like really, looks were pretty darn important, Well,
I think you could almost tell that from when you watched, when they had the Confidential thing and Nydia did they showed the tape that she sent in for Tough Enough. I mean, she was just a fan.
Yeah. She wasn't a fan. I don't think she was a fan for life, but I guess she was born in Puerto Rico, which I didn't know, which explains why she knows Spanish so well. And where did she end up? Houston, Texas, right? Stripping in Houston, Texas?
Something I wish I had followed her closer, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I got everyone's like bio watching the blind date people sent me the like the interviews that do not air on television, so I got everyone's kind of background and everything like that. Linda Miles was pretty interesting. And, you know, they all were less conceited than they probably could have been, with one exception, which is, of course, Jackie Gata. Okay, anyway, also, besides Blind Date, the weekend of the 22nd through the 12th, real quick, W1, Great Muta against Bob Sapp, who may eat him. And
threatened to eat him.
He threatened to eat him, yeah. He's threatened to eat a lot of people. And the 22nd and 24th, 22nd, UFC, Ken Shamrock, Tito Ortiz. Of course, we talked about that one last week with Dana White. It's probably the biggest UFC match in about 5 years. And 24th is Pride. And who knows what's going on with Pride, but they did announce Antonio Nogueira against Semi Schilt, which is quite an interesting match because Antonio Nogueira has a chance to defeat two giants in a row after his win over Bob Sapp. NWA TNA last Wednesday. A real hot match with AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn. Want to mention that. Did you see that one, Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah, real
good match.
Real good match, yeah. No.
It was one of those things where it saved the show again.
Yeah, because I don't think the show was all that great up until that point, but yeah. We're going to start with Dan in Chicago. Dan, how are you?
Good, how are you guys doing tonight?
We're doing really good.
Got a couple of comments to make about Shawn Michaels, and I want to see what you guys think of it.
Okay.
Now, I got a couple of people who I, consider good friends who are saved, okay? And Shawn Michaels, I think, is a little bit of a hypocrite. I love Shawn Michaels.
All wrestlers are hypocrites when they get older.
What happened, the day after the pay-per-view with the...
We're doing really good.
Got a couple of comments to make about Shawn Michaels, and I want to see what you guys think of it.
Okay.
Now, I got a couple of people who I, consider good friends who are saved, okay? And Shawn Michaels, I think, is a little bit of a hypocrite. I love Shawn Michaels.
All wrestlers are hypocrites when they get older.
What happened, the day after the pay-per-view with the Triple H and the casket thing, you would think with Shawn Michaels' morals that he would say, I don't want any part of this. Mick Foley.
Wrestling fan.
Right.
It wasn't a morality thing. He just, Mick Foley's a big fan, and Shawn is probably not as big a fan as Mick Foley, and Shawn probably didn't care nearly as much.
Because Triple H that's his friend.
I don't think so much Triple H is his friend. I just don't think that he really cares all that much.
Well, I don't know. I was just thinking that,
I mean, Triple H is his friend, but, I don't think that's the reason that, he
I mean, that was so stupid.
Right.
I would actually almost think that Michaels would have been more offended if they'd done the HLA thing.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, but I'm just saying that was more like something real where they were really humiliating people as opposed to this, which was just so dumb.
Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, Shawn Michaels has never walked out on principle for anything. He's walked out for many reasons.
Well, that's this guy's argument that he's a changed man now.
Right.
But okay, he tells his friends that he is, and I'm not. But whenever wrestlers talk about religion, please be skeptical. I'm not saying, and some of them are very sincere. I mean, I totally believe Sting, is sincere, and he really never wanted to come back, even though he's coming back. And Ted DiBiase, I believe, is sincere. I mean, then there's others, but plenty of them, so many people get into religion from wrestling. It's amazing, and many of them do see it as going from one con to another.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not saying Shawn's one of them, but and he's not making money. Although Shawn's gone to churches and preached. Well, I'm not knocking Shawn on this because I don't know the situation well enough. But Shawn has never walked out over that kind of over something like as far as storylines that are not tasteful. Let's say.
And I got another comment about Shawn Michaels, and it's funny you mentioned Sting. Remember on Monday how Shawn was kind of stalking Triple H? Didn't that kind of remind you of Sting on certain things? Like he said he was going to...
Similar a little bit, yeah.
The way Sting said, I'm going to come from the ceiling, and I actually think Shawn Michaels did say, I could drop from the ceiling. I could come from this thing.
No, they're not dropping anyone from the ceiling.
No, I don't think so either.
Anyway, we got to go ahead to a break, Dan. Thanks very much for calling. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter. We're here with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. If you're interested in getting the most detailed information on pro wrestling, you can always go to www.wrestlingobserver.com. We have news headlines up there all the time, but also there's information that has subscribed to both the Wrestling Observer Newsletter and Figure 4 Weekly, both up on the features section, as well as there's other places you can click on it to get subscription information. But anyway, Figure 4 Weekly, which Brian does, it is the most entertaining read you will have every week on pro wrestling. It's awesome. Best TV reviews. A lot of people who don't even watch Lucha Libre and could not pick Porky out of a police lineup.
Oh, yes, they could. That's an example.
What if he was with Grand Marcus?
Well, that's true.
By the way, there was one of the shows, I don't know, it was about a month or two ago. You must have seen it, and I actually just watched it a couple days ago. When they were interviewing, was it Shocker and Máscara Mágica interviewing for New Guapos?
Yeah.
Okay. And they had this guy, and if he was in that police lineup, and people hadn't watched Lucha Libre, he could have been Porky.
That's true, they did. They had the thing. Actually, they've had those for weeks now.
Yeah.
And my favorite is a guy named Terrible.
Uh-huh.
What a great name.
Yes. But anyway, also you can get Wrestling Observer newsletter, which is detailed news from all over the world, everything that we talk about, plus a ton more. In fact, this week's issue, we will go backstage at, so to speak, at WF booking meeting, not the one they covered in the Boston Globe, but the one that they were talking about for this Sunday's pay-per-view, and a lot of things that have been said. And anyway, you'll know why things are like they are, and why there is no long-term planning, because Vince McMahon always changes his mind. Anyway, before we get to calls, Brian, have you ever heard of the movie Reversal?
I've heard of it, but I've not seen it.
Okay, see it.
That's the one with Kurt Angle, right?
Kurt Angle is in the DVD. Kurt Angle, Sting, and Cale Sanderson, and Danny Hodge, and several others, actually, Carl Lewis. They're on the DVD commenting about how much they loved the movie. And the other night, I went to the movies, and I went to a movie that Marianne wanted to see. And it was with Adam Sandler, and it was just... I think it got 4 stars, and it was just not any good at all. I forget the name of the movie, and it's not really important, which shows how much of an impression. So last night...
Did she enjoy it?
No, she hated it.
Okay.
So last night, it was my turn to watch a movie, and so I said, let's watch Reversal. I got the DVD, right? They sent it to me for promotional. I've been wanting to watch it. And it was like, oh, God, you're making me watch a wrestling movie. Oh, God. And she loved the movie. Absolutely loved it. She thought it was the best movie we've seen in months. And she's not even a wrestling fan. It's more about amateur wrestling. It's more about kid growing up. But I give that guy credit. The guy who's this is like somebody's labor of love, because the guy who was the star of the movie was also the producer of the movie, and he was writing a movie about basically himself when he was a senior in high school, at 17 years old. And it's so deep and it's so awesome. And seriously, you should. It's a great movie. And not just if you like wrestling. And the thing that, where Kurt Angle and Cale Sanderson and those guys, what they loved is the wrestling was so authentic. It was like they had real, like, high school wrestlers play, they in recruiting the actors for the movie, instead of recruiting actors and trying to teach them to wrestle, they took wrestlers and tried to teach them to act. So their acting isn't really all that good, but the wrestling scenes are tremendous.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I think if anybody ever goes to Kurt Angle's website, it's plugged all over that thing. So
is it?
It'll be easy to find. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then go to. He's not plugging something that's not worth getting plugged. Let's see. Yesterday was the 5th anniversary of the Survivor Series in Montreal, and I was so happy that I went all day and all night without even thinking about it, and nobody brought it up to me, and it was just for the fact that I knew it was November 9th, 2002 was enough. But anyway.
That was a really foolish thing to say, too.
Why? No one's going to call about it tonight.
Oh, just wait.
Yeah, it's old news. 5-year-old news. We're not going to... I just thought about that because because it is. Anyway, let's go to Don in Queens. Don, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Dave and Brian?
Doing great.
I went to the Ring of Honor show yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And, I thought it was really good. I have a couple questions. First one regarding when Dreamer came out, and he said something about, the best thing is competition. My question is, do you ever picture Ring of Honor, really becoming on the ranks of maybe even WWE someday?
Absolutely not. Not a prayer.
Why not?
They don't have the finances. Their style, while their style is something that's like really awesome for people like us, it's a niche style, and a niche style is never going to, even you know what? It's just the money. Money's right there. Unless Rupert Murdoch goes to those guys and goes, I want you on our TV, and even then, they'd have to hire, 200 people, and then the pressure would be on them to get ratings, and they would end up doing the same thing Vince does anyway. It wouldn't be the same Ring of Honor. So no.
I mean, even if Ring of Honor put on the greatest shows in the entire world every week, and TNA put on the absolute worst shows every week, TNA would still be closer because they've got the money.
And yeah, because they've got the money. I mean, it's not, there have been indies that have put on great matches since the beginning of time, and they've never, gotten anywhere. And it's the same thing even in Japan. I mean, like with Tori Human or something like that. They're never going to be as big as Pride or New Japan, Well, actually, they may if New Japan continues to sing.
Now, if Rupert Murdoch was a big fan of Ring of Honor, maybe.
Yeah, but
it's something like that would have to happen. It's somebody knowing somebody that's got a lot of power.
And them getting TV, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever think like a sports-style presentation of pro wrestling will ever really become a major player?
If they have enough money behind them and they do it in a good enough way to where the public likes it, yeah. I mean, there's no reason why. If you have a great promoter, he should be able to sell a product mix if he's consistent with it, and if you have enough of a public. It's a hard thing, but Sam Mushnick did it for years, and it never.
Do you mean like a sports style as in WWE where they present it like a sport, or do you mean like work UFC style?
I mean WWE where they present it not like.
Do you mean like Japanese, like All Japan style?
Yes, yes. Where there's no the BS storylines and stuff.
If you have a TV guy behind it, the BS storylines though still are a lot of the reason for the TV ratings.
I don't know about the BS storylines, but
no, you're right. The good storylines, the good storylines. Yeah, the bad storylines don't help. No, you're right. Yeah. I mean, if you have a great promoter and you have great television and great athletes there, you could do it. Again, you'd have to have some name marquee guys there to kind of give it the credibility at the start, and young guys who could kind of take the ball, and it's possible. But again, you got primetime TV. Yeah, it could be done.
All right. Yesterday, also regarding Tommy Dreamer, do you know what went on to get him on the show?
It was one of those things where I think he was going to come to the show anyway, and they asked him, or he suggested doing something like what he did. Most of it was his idea, almost all of it actually. And they contacted, I think Rob Feinstein contacted Jim Ross, and the basic gist was, he can do it as long as he doesn't take a bump. So.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
So that was the deal. There's a lot of internet speculation that was like WWE, what's the word? Like making good because they pulled Spanky from the show, but one had nothing to do with the other on that account. Let's go to Brian in Oakley. Brian, Oakley, California.
How's it going, guys?
Not too far from here. What's going on?
Yeah, not at all. I read on the Law's website that Saturn and Godfather are going to WWA.
Yes, they are.
And replace for Scott Steiner. Is that going to look like? Is it going to be like a permanent thing since their contracts are up in a while?
No. That's just for this tour. For the 2-week tour from November 29th to I think the other one's December 13th, but whatever it is, that 2-week tour.
And that's not like going against any other contracts, or WWE's no.
Well, WWE, if you notice, Perry Saturn and Godfather are not working any shows whatsoever, so
right.
it's
so this may actually be permanent.
Yeah,
Saturn's contract's up in a couple months anyways, right?
Yeah, mid-January.
And what about Godfather's?
I don't know when his is up.
They brought him back for the Chuck Billy angle and haven't done anything with him since.
Yeah, I don't think they have any ideas for him. So, I wouldn't be surprised if when his contract's up, it's not renewed as well. So.
And one more question about Hogan. How come nothing's been said on WWE's website about him not, anymore?
How can they say it? How do you address it?
Well, kind of the same way they did with Austin. He's been
coming out.
It's a big difference. There's with Austin, they wanted to bury him publicly because they were afraid that the public would side with Austin against them. With Hogan, these guys got to work together on this book, and they can't be burying him now because there's too much money at stake, and Simon & Schuster would shoot both sides if they screw it up.
Okay.
So they can't bury him.
Okay.
And if they're not going to bury him, what do they say? Oh, Hulk Hogan wouldn't come back. That's burying him.
That's true.
He wouldn't do a job for Brock. Which you're not going to say anyway.
One more quick thing, Brian. I got a Figure 4 weekly in the mail a couple weeks ago.
Cool.
And I have not subscribed for over a year. But it was a very nice surprise in the mail, and I did enjoy reading it.
Oh, okay. No problem.
So,
every now and then they'll show up.
What?
Every now and then they'll show up for people.
Well, thanks for taking my call, guys.
Okay, you're very welcome. Let's go to Well, actually, we're going to go ahead to a break, and then we will come back with John in Rochester, New York. And we got one line available at 1-800. No, we don't. I spoke too fast. It's already been taken. Anyway, we'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
Big John McCarthy of the UFC, and you're listening to the Wrestling Observer with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez.
Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and John McCarthy will be refereeing that match that we talked about. You know, Jeff Merrick is going to be broadcasting from there live.
Yeah, from ringside, right?
From Octagon side, yeah.
Octagon side.
Yeah, for the match. Okay, since this is going to be your last chance on this one.
Oh, it's your last chance too.
To change your prediction.
Never.
Okay, really?
Shamrock.
Shamrock, okay. Okay, I'm going with Tito. Okay, now, here's the thing. If Shamrock wins, Shamrock and Chuck Liddell just can't have even a chance. Well, he has a chance.
I think he'll always have a chance.
Yeah, he has a chance, obviously.
But I think that's a much, much, much harder fight.
Yeah, I don't. The way they match up, that's a tough one. I mean, you know, anything can happen. I've seen some strange things happen in fights, and I'm sure I'll see a lot of strange.
Yeah, UFC.
Oh yeah.
On a can in the back or a pipe. Remember that?
Oh God, yes. Kevin Randleman slipped on something. Oh my God.
Like a banana peel, it could have been.
That finish
what was
that finish was Jerry Jarrett's idea. He thought he just came up with this idea. He thought it was like the funniest thing in the world. Oh, it was awful.
It was really bad.
That I mean, it was, and you know, and that match was bad. And the thing about this one, you know, I mean, they're gonna have Jerry Lynn against Kid Cash. Okay, so that'll be a good match. And they're gonna have Red against Jimmy Yang, which I got a feeling that may be a great match. That may be the match of the night on Wednesday. But they're also gonna have Priscilla and Jorge Estrada against Brian Lawler in April, and that is going to be so bad.
You know the thing about the banana peel is every week I watch wrestling and I laugh, and usually when I laugh, it's always about something that usually is probably not supposed to be very funny. And sometimes people will try so hard in wrestling to make stuff funny that it's just really not funny, and the banana was a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, we're going to go to Jim in Edison, New Jersey. Jim, what's going on?
How you doing, guys?
Doing good.
I was reading on the internet tonight that the Elimination Chamber is going to have like 5 different cells on top, where you have to lock the guy in a cage to win.
Oh God!
Did you hear anything about that?
I haven't heard. I don't know. I mean, it could be. I just haven't heard.
Yeah, that would make sense.
So they're saying there'd be no pinfalls at all.
Oh, that's just great.
That does solve some problems with people doing jobs.
Yeah, but it makes it so lame.
Yeah.
You know, I've always hated those handcuffs to the corner matches. You know, they do them in Puerto Rico, and they've done them in some, like, War Games type of matches. I never liked them.
That would make sense as far as explaining why the cage is going to be so elaborate. I mean, how elaborate can a cage really be?
Yeah.
Is Steiner going to be at the Survivor Series, too?
I have not heard that, but it would make perfect sense to me. If I was running things, that would be the night he would debut, which means it's, 40-60 against? I don't know.
Is he wrestle or do an interview process?
I'm sure he won't wrestle. He's
got to be at Survivor Series. It's not there tomorrow night.
Yeah. I don't think he's... I think that if he's going to be there... If they're thinking of debuting him, they might as well announce tomorrow night that he's making his decision on Sunday. And at least do something...
That would make the most sense, which means that obviously will not be happening.
Yeah. So, and then probably start wrestling afterwards. I think that his first big match will be at the December pay-per-view.
They should have him on both shows this week to, like, build it up for Sunday.
Okay, maybe build it up to where he says, I'll make my decision. No, they shouldn't. He should debut. They should go in there and go, Scott Steiner's going to... You don't need to give away his first one for free. You should put his first one on pay-per-view, and then his first TVs can be the week after for the people who didn't see the pay-per-view. And it'll do the same rating.
It would be kind of cool, though, if you had, like, face-to-face confrontations with Triple H and Brock the same week.
Yeah, next week. The week after, you paid for it. Not for free.
Okay, guys.
Okay?
You guys have a nice week.
Okay, you too. Let's go to Matt in Daly City. Matt, what's going on?
Hey, Dave. Long time no talk.
Yeah.
It's been since the ER days.
Wow.
Oh.
It's been too long.
Yes, it has.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I live right outside San Francisco, and I can't seem to get the show.
Well, it's because we're not on a San Francisco station, unfortunately, which is amazing because I'm in San Francisco, but what can I say? You can get Sirius Satellite Radio, Channel 123, and you can get it anywhere in the world, and you're in your car. You can drive all over the country, and you'll never lose a signal.
Good plug, Dave.
Yep, that's true. That's what the whole thing's for.
That's true. Brian.
Yeah.
Have you been working regularly?
It's actually every weekend now for Tito Carrion.
Cool. How's the bod?
I just read about Tito Carrion.
Yeah, I read that thing today in the paper, too. That
in the
was
Hillsborough paper. It's a nice story, yeah.
73-year-old with a tope.
Yeah, the world's oldest tope.
That's cool.
I don't know if it's cool, because he may get hurt.
Well, hey, if he can do it, he can do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you choose, Brian, you choose Shamrock?
Yep.
Nah, no way. No way.
I will be laughing next week on the show.
No, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks I'll be laughing.
Yeah, you may be. I mean,
and I'll be laughing on the air because we'll be watching it as the show is going on.
No, we won't. It's Pride that we'll be watching as the show's going on. UFC's on a Friday night.
Yep, I'll be there.
You're going?
Oh, yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have so many people over my house. I think I will have more people over my house than at any time since the Tyson Holyfield fight where he bit his ear, when I had like about 60 people over the house.
Jeez.
But I mean, I had so many people call, about this one. I mean, this is like a real big deal to my friends.
You know that Universal promotion out in Vegas that
which
Kenny works for?
Yeah, the one. Okay, UWF, I think it's called. Yeah.
Right. Are they going to be running shows that weekend?
They run every Friday night at their gym.
Oh.
So that's head to head. Now Saturday, if you're going to Vegas on Friday for the UFC, there's a WFA show at the Aladdin Hotel. Yeah, on Saturday night, the next night.
Who's working?
Frank Trigg against Dennis Hallman is the main event.
Mm.
So, and then they're going to have, I forget who else is on the show. It's a pretty decent lineup. Their shows notoriously go long. Speaking of long, that Combat Zone show ended at, can you imagine, Brian, actually, going to a show that ends at 1:40 a.m. on a Saturday night?
That's just, it was a double header, so some of the people probably started watching wrestling at 5.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of them. That's a lot. Well, I once had a day, and it was one show. It was the All Japan Women's Show at the Tokyo Dome in 1994, 95, whatever year that was.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the show started at 2 and ended at 12:30, if I am correct in my memory. But it was this day, like, there were so many great matches. But if you were actually there, it was like this day that never ended. The day felt like it was a week. Like, it just was. It was 24 matches or something. And I mean, and they were great. And that's the longest show I've ever been to, and I think it's the longest show I will ever go to.
I feel sorry for the people in the CZW show that were probably on about halfway through that show, because they were the people that probably, got absolutely no reaction for anything they did, because everyone was so burnt out.
Yeah. Anything else, Matt?
Yeah. Who do you guys think would be Mr. Wrestling 3?
Steve Armstrong is Mr. Wrestling 3, and I have a good... Just based on the way that they were talking, where Ron Killings goes, I don't understand why Bob Armstrong, signed it so quickly. It made me think that maybe Steve Armstrong will end up being Mr. Wrestling 3.
How about Brad?
I don't know if Brad can wrestle. He got hurt real bad when was it Hoovy ran him over or Psychosis? One of those guys ran him over, and he hasn't wrestled since.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. Dave, are you going to get a hold of last night's Ring of Honor show?
I am certain to get a tape of it relatively soon, yes.
Okay, yeah. No doubt. Is there any chance that they're getting national TV?
No. I can't, not now. No, there's no chance at all.
The way I see it is...
They're actually thinking of giving up their TV because they don't think it's helping them.
Well, I think they're one money mark away from, getting big.
Well,
everybody is.
Everyone is right.
I mean, from their product. I think
they have a great product.
That's what we need. I mean, I'm it's to the point where I tape the WWE shows and I fast forward the garbage. And
I'm fast forwarding sometimes on Monday.
On Monday, but hey, I'm not going to knock WWE because we've had how many straight weeks of SmackDown been great? I mean, like 8 weeks in a row. So what the hell?
Yeah.
I mean, Raw. I suffered through Raw again on Monday, and I'll suffer through it tomorrow. But what are you going to do?
Yeah. Okay, who's going over in the Elimination Chamber?
If I was booking, it's Booker T, but I'm not booking, and I think he's got no prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm predicting, Shawn Michaels.
Do you really think so?
Possibly.
I mean, if you were booking Brian, isn't that a good pick?
I
mean, if it's not, okay. It ain't going to be, I guess it could be Van Dam. It isn't going to be Jericho.
Yeah.
It'd be stupid for it to be Kane, although it could be. I don't think it'll be Booker. So you're left with, realistically, RVD maybe, slim chance, but they buried him a lot. Hunter, which don't you think it'd be stupid for Hunter to beat 5 guys?
I do, but I think that's what's going to happen.
Okay, you may be right. So the only one left is Shawn.
Yeah. I'm the biggest Shawn Michaels fan in the world, but I don't even think I would put on a belt on him Sunday.
Well,
just because I don't know what's going to happen to him Monday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They put together, a great lineup there. All the players are legitimate contenders. That's what makes it such an interesting match. I think Booker T is going to go over. RVD will do some huge spot to get him over.
Well, we'll see. We got to get running because we got a bunch of calls to get to. Okay, Matt?
Okay.
All right, we're going to Dave in Watertown, Massachusetts.
How are you, Dave and Brian?
Hey.
I just wanted to ask a quick question about Brock Lesnar and Yuji Nagata.
Yes.
I saw this weekend that they issued a challenge to each other at the Kurt Angle Classic.
Don't read too much into that one.
So you don't think the match will ever take place?
No. I mean,
maybe someday, but
yeah, not now. I mean, it's for publicity for New Japan to say, we're negotiating this match for the January 4th Tokyo Dome to get some interest, but there's no way that WWE is going to allow Brock Lesnar to go to Japan and wrestle Yuji Nagata. And how do you work out a finish? But yeah, someday, they're going to have long careers. I wouldn't be surprised to see them wrestle.
So you don't think WWE will do it when they have their tour of Japan?
It's impossible. Okay. The Japanese fans won't want. Well, first of all, Brock's not going because it's Raw that's going. Number two, the Japanese fans that go to WWE want to see WWE. They don't want to see Japanese wrestling. I mean, that's the reality. They boo when people talk Japanese at the WWE show. They want to see pure. They want to see a pure WWE product. They don't want to see WWE with Tenryu there or with Yuji Nagata there.
I had one other question. Do you have any reason, any idea why the WWE didn't announce that Royal Rumble will be in Boston to the people that were at the Raw show last week?
I have no idea. I cannot give you one reason that makes any sense whatsoever.
I mean, it's amazing the people that didn't even know they were in town the last time.
Okay. Here's my theory on that one. Now that I think about it. Okay, if they had announced it, maybe they're afraid people would run to the box office and they wouldn't have tickets available and they don't want empty seats at a TV taping. So maybe that's it.
It was pretty empty last week, so.
By the end of the show, yes, I heard.
Well, why couldn't they announce it later?
You mean after Raw went off the air?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean when they did the 10-man tag?
Well, they had to keep people in the seats for the 10-man tag.
After that, I mean,
nobody was left in the building anyway.
Everybody left during that match.
Yeah, I mean, they could, and there's nothing wrong with it at that point, but everybody left anyway, so maybe they just figured, whatever.
Well, teach them for leaving early.
I don't know. They should have announced it, though. I mean, at the end of the show, there's no reason by that point not to say something.
On that 10-man tag, the people who left early, all I can say is they were smart.
Oh, it wasn't good?
It wasn't good at all.
Okay, everyone who's going to watch on Tuesday. Well, I did hear that the three-way with,
I went to Manchester on Tuesday for the SmackDown tapings, and the three-way was excellent.
Okay, so it's worth watching. How's the bikini contest?
It wasn't bad. I mean, they did the little thing when Nydia came down, and then they just declared both women the winner, and Taz emceed it.
Yeah. Isn't that so sad? They do an interpromotional bikini contest, and they can't figure out someone to do a job.
There's a lot they can't figure out. Anyway, guys, keep up a great job with the news.
That was a great finish.
Okay, thanks, David. We're going to be back with more right after this. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Brian Alvarez, Figure 4 Weekly. We're here for 2 hours every Sunday night with Wrestling Observer Live, and we're going to have Shane Douglas in the second hour. We're going to go to San Antonio, Texas. Ed, what's happening?
Hey, guys. What I want to ask about is, I know someone had brought up, the thing was Brock and Nagata.
Yes.
My question is more to, you always hear about stuff like that, like Muta challenging The Rock, and it seems like every few months always trying to bring in Mike Tyson. and my question is, have the fans gotten tired of always being lied to, and why does their media always do these things?
Okay, their media is always looking for something, like Tokyo Sports and all these things. There's so many newspapers in Japan, and they have a front page story, and they want a front page story that people will buy the paper. And if Inoki's going to say something like that, it's like this little game that they all play that he'll say it, we can sell papers, and so, it's one of those things, and then it just never happens.
Well, the thing with Inoki is he's so smart because he'll lie maybe 10 times, and then he'll say something like he's going to jump out of an airplane for the Pride show,
and he doesn't
really do it.
Yeah.
And then he has 10 more lies after that he
I remember in the 70s when he first started talking about, he was going to fight Muhammad Ali, and I was just going like, oh my God, right? Yep. But he did. And I think that because he did that, every time he says something like that, people go, well, there may be, And
then right when they've given up, he actually comes through.
Yeah, and they'll spend money and they'll bring somebody in. Yeah, because like this last week they had big story, that In fact, it's a couple days that, they're going to bring in Ruan Gardner. And maybe they will. Who knows?
Yeah.
And also, I want to ask Brian a question. Brian, on the comment board, somebody had put in a comment in defense of the Big Show, and you had said that he had took care of his, I might not say it right, his acromegaly.
Acromegaly.
Yeah, he took care of that when he was a child.
No, when he was in college. He actually took care of it when he was in college.
Oh, he took care of it in college. Well,
he had an operation in college, yeah.
How was he able to take care of this, and they were never able to do anything with Andre? Is it just more technology?
I think it was just that it was so many years later, and they had learned how to, learn some new things, maybe, or by the time.
Or maybe he was just young enough that they could do something about it, and Andre.
Well, they knew about Andre at about the same age, but I think maybe because Andre was in France then. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was probably just technology advanced.
But it was taken care of, and that's not why he is so large right now.
No, but it's why he's so tall. It's why he's so tall and everything like that. But yeah, no, the continual growth, he doesn't have that like Andre. Andre, it couldn't be helped, unfortunately for him.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks for taking my call.
Okay, you're very welcome, Ed. We've got to head out of here right now. We'll be back right after the hourly break. We'll have Shane Douglas up as well, plus taking your phone calls. We got a full bank of calls, so we'll be back right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.
Let's get it on!
Okay, welcome back to the second hour here on Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we're here for 2 hours every Sunday night. And I'm going to head to Deerfield Beach, Florida. Alan, what's going on?
How's it going, Dave?
Going good.
All right, I wanted to know if there's any validity. There's a rumor that Vince had a problem with Hogan's book and the fact about writing about Vince's infidelities, quote unquote.
No, he didn't have a problem. He didn't have a problem with writing about Vince's infidelities because Vince has admitted all of that himself already.
And he's probably somewhat proud of it.
He's talked about it like he's proud of it. He just Linda McMahon had a problem because she thought Hogan's book was boring, and Hogan had a problem because Linda McMahon said that his book was boring. So that's the book problem. But they're both, they're promoting the book, and also Linda and Vince both thought that Hogan should have, talked about how, Vince saved his life and Vince made his career, and it was all Vince. And Hogan, wanted to take credit for his own success. So,
Did Hogan talk about any of the backstage political, arguments and things?
I don't know, because I haven't read the book.
Oh.
So I only know I've talked to two people who have read the book.
Uh-huh.
And they just gave me basically briefly that, Hogan skirted all major issues.
Oh, he did, huh?
But
so it's a book, pretty much, it's not a shoot book?
I mean, I don't think you can shoot book with Hulk Hogan anyway, but that
or not.
Yeah. What? Yeah. But and Hogan wanted a clean book, so he didn't say a lot of dirty stuff.
Well, do you also think that Vince and Brett will ever get together?
In what sense? I mean,
as far as I heard that they might be talking since his.
They've talked. Vince and Brett have talked. Probably two or probably. Yeah, probably 3 or 4 times in the last couple of months. Yeah. I would guess. Maybe.
Time heals all wounds, huh?
Well, what are you going to do? The guy had a stroke. You want to wish him well. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, if everybody, like the Road Warriors, talk about Vince, like, if you ever see our...
Well, I'm sure when they said it, they believed it. The only thing is they'll still work. They'll still work for him because, he's the evil person who's the only one that can give him a job.
Right.
So what are you going to do? I mean,
Hogan's coming back? I mean, I asked you a lot of questions.
Is who coming back?
Hogan.
Someday I believe that he will, but no time soon.
There's a lot of friction there, huh?
This week there is, yeah.
Can't be at work?
That's not at work.
All right, thank you.
No. All right. We got to go head to a break right now. We're back with more right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter, with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly. We're going to be joined in just a couple of minutes by Shane Douglas. We're going to start going back to the calls in just a second. Brian, I got one for you, and this match may actually take place on December 7th in K1. Bob Sapp against Jerome LeBanner. Who do you think is going to win? If they have that match, which it could happen.
I think that if they have the match, that would have meant that Bob Sapp would have had to have advanced in the tournament.
And Jerome.
Well, yeah, but I think Bob has a harder time with conditioning than Jerome LeBanner, so I think LeBanner will beat him.
Yeah, well, it depends on punishment and things like that, but I would agree with you on that. Let's go to John in Springfield, Illinois. John, what's going on?
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Couple questions about Tough Enough. I don't know, did you guys see the last episode of Tough Enough?
I did.
You know, it was really ironic for Al Snow's ending comments talking about how, in two ways, about how I think it was Craig. Was that the guy's name?
Which one?
The 6'11" guy they cut.
Chad.
Chad. That's right. And he was talking about, well, you know, in this business, you can't just have the gimmick only. You have to have a personality and everything, and you have to, you have to work in the ring and everything like that. And they're put Big Show as part of the co-main event for Survivor Series.
Yes, well.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about that.
Well, I think the whole thing is was Tough Enough when I watch it and when I watch all the people getting cut and everything like that. I think that ideally, if I were doing that show, I would not really cut anybody unless they were just a total moron. Like Daryl, you at least had a reason to cut Daryl. He was an idiot.
And Scott, too?
Yeah. But
they'll keep Scott because
they'll keep Scott because they think he's ratings, of course.
Right.
He's an idiot, but it's not like he's a total fit. Well, I don't know.
No, well, from what Al was saying during the show, it's like he's saying, well, Scott's picking up stuff and he's maturing, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, he got drunk twice in like 2 weeks.
Right. I guess so. As long as he can do the alcohol poisoning on his own time, as long as he,
Yeah.
But think about the wrestlers that get drunk every night.
Yeah, but in Tough Enough, you're being judged at all times. I mean, hey, let's face it. How many of these guys would have gone through Tough Enough and survived? I mean, some of them would have, obviously. The real well-conditioned ones.
Guys are in WWF now.
But you know what? This is the thing. I think, to me, the thing that's so bad about it is if a Mick Foley went through this.
Me and Brian have talked about that one.
Yeah, Mick Foley took 2 years.
Well, Mick Foley would have not made the 13.
Right. And that's.
And Chris Benoit would have been cut about 4 weeks in if he was in last season.
Right. He would be Danny from last year.
Yes, he would. Because Chris Benoit did not have that body when he was 18 years old.
Yeah, and it seems like they're doing this as like a quick fix and everything. And
it's not a quick fix; it's a TV show.
Well, that's true.
I mean, no one's counting on Tough Enough being there to replenish the ranks of young wrestlers, even though they did get Christopher Nowinski and Maven who are doing
But they are looking for draws. They are looking for like somebody in the lower card or something like.
No, they're not. No, they're really not. They're looking to do a TV show, and if someone catches on, that's cool. I mean. I can tell you when the first Tough Enough was there, I mean, there was no thought whatsoever that any of these guys would be on the main roster for years.
Right.
And, Maven caught on real quick. And they beat Maven right away. They didn't know what they had, as usual.
Right.
And they made mistakes with him. And then Nowinski, it was a couple of years. And they, in a sense, brought him up too soon. But I think they like his size, and I think they like his interview ability. I mean, work-wise in the ring, obviously he's not ready, but...
Two quick questions on Tough Enough. First, I've always had a suspicion from last year as far as the voting and why they chose the two women. And I can understand. I did hear from you. You're saying like Jake was mentally wasn't tough enough. Basically.
It wasn't mentally tough enough. Jake wasn't a good wrestler. Jake had everything going. He could not wrestle. So I mean,
But then I wondered,
they kept him till the end. Because they kept praying that he would learn to wrestle because he looked so good.
So they were looking for basically just women and people who could parade around in lingerie?
No, they were not. They were looking for the two best candidates. And, Linda Miles was not there because she looked good in lingerie. She was there because...
Linda Miles, I can understand.
Linda Miles was a great athlete. Jackie Gaeta. Hey, Jackie Gaeta was Jackie Gaeta. What can I say? Watch Blind Date. Hey, you know what? If they would, let's see.
Well, that's why...
Next Monday night, a week from Monday, okay? If they were to, cut out a half hour of that garbage on Raw and just put Jackie Gate on Blind Date and then bring her back, she would be such a great heel the week after that it would, help Raw. It really would. I'm not being facetious there.
So
at least show clips of it, really, and bring her back. But not don't put her in the ring, though.
So I guess she forgot about her boyfriend. I guess that's all.
I guess that's gone, yes.
And the other thing is, so I guess we can all, they're supposed to have some call-in voting part of it as far as choosing who are going to be the final who are going to be the...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Are they going to have, like, internet vote on it?
Exactly. I was thinking about that.
And it's going to count? Or no?
I don't know if it'll count, but they're going to be allowed to vote.
Oh, I hope it does. I hope it doesn't.
Fans thought, and here's what the actual voting was.
Okay, because if they had the fans vote last year, they would have picked Jake. So that shows how stupid the fans are, you know.
Yeah. Well, do you see Tough Enough for another season, or because
It all depends on the ratings and MTV, and I can't read the minds of TV people, but it's doing okay. It's not knocking them dead.
Right.
I mean, I could see it. I mean, I know that WWE's hoping for it to go on for a while. They got plans, through Tough Enough 5. I mean, sort of on the drawing board. So.
Last question, real quick. Do you think? Do you hear any rumblings from Viacom, or do you hear anything about Viacom as far as the ratings collapse, basically, of these programs, even SmackDown?
No. I mean, I don't think it's anything that anyone would worry about now. Down the road. Where the ratings are when the Raw contract comes due is a very, very important thing. That's 3 years from now, and who knows where it'll be. SmackDown, SmackDown, the ad rates are not that high, even though the ratings are still the highest rated show on the network. So, I don't see them canceling the highest rated show on their network, but if SmackDown fell to, somewhere in the pack, I think it would be dead just because they can't charge good rates for it.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks a lot, Dave.
Okay, very welcome. Let's go to Todd in Poughkeepsie. Todd, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Dave?
Doing really good.
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
Hey, I was just going to ask you guys, in terms of where you think they should go with Brock Lesnar in the long term, because I think a lot of guys are talking about keeping the belt on him a long time. I know I was listening to Law.
Oh, you'll hear some funny stories about that one. I can tell you is that plans are changing.
No.
Yes. Oh, yes, they are.
In what sense? I mean,
Vince McMahon is changing his mind on the plan to keep the belt on Brock Lesnar for a long, long time. I mean, nothing's changed. It's not like, but it could change it. He can change his mind at any time, and he changed his mind this last week.
Because I'm in favor of keeping him around at least through WrestleMania or something. But
that was the plan. That was the plan.
In terms of long term, I don't know if he's the answer though, because I'm of the feeling that you don't push a heel as your top draw when you're trying to turn around business. You need to.
Well, they're going to make him babyface. I think
actually is a huge mistake from his match with Eddie. Yeah. I mean, his selling as a babyface exposed him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm totally with Brian on that one. That's the problem. I don't think Brock Lesnar is a babyface.
He's not now. There's a day that he will be ready to be a babyface, but we will all know it, and then they should do it about 4 months later because the people need to be begging for it before they do it.
Yeah.
But what it is ever since he got cheered at Rock, I think Vince in the back of his mind is like, oh, this guy's a babyface.
Well, I think he could be a babyface character, no problem, but not a babyface worker that the people would get into.
Well, it's pretty hard for him to sell for too many of the guys and get sympathy with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe Big Show, but not too many others.
Yeah.
It's also a problem with the babyface draw because people will point to Goldberg, but Goldberg still was going up against sort of guys that were larger either in stature or in terms of just sort of their aura, with like the Hogans and the Nashes and the whatnots. And I think with Brock, if he overwhelms everyone, it's hard to get behind him in the way you can like a Booker or an Edge or a Benoit in that sense.
Well, the problem is that they've killed so much of their talent, and there's just they gotta. I don't know. I think that they've got to make. I would just do away with the brand extension. I mean, I would do the two shows, and I would have different talent on each show, but I would give not have it so like there's whatever a dividing line, so at least these guys can get new opponents. Unless they have some brilliant story with Eric and Stephanie that they just need to keep going, and they know is going to pop business. But I sure don't hear it, so I don't know that they got it. I hope maybe they'll luck into it down the road.
Yeah, I don't think the brand extension is working, but I don't know about blowing it up, just because I think every time they blow it up, it kills business. Every time, they keep on...
Another restart.
Well, they're going to do another restart anyway soon enough. But I know, I like, as a fan, the idea of the brand extension, but I look and when I see it's so they have so limited main eventers, and I mean, the whole deal when this brand extension started is like now we're going to be able to create new stars, and except for Brock, who was going to be a new star, whether they had a brand extension or not, who have they created? And I mean, look at like the Van Dams and the Jerichos and the Booker T's and all those guys that were supposed to get the big push with the brand extension, and I think they're all worse off. Well, that's because they're on Raw.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's so much a brand extension. It's just the dude writing, or I don't even know if it's Brian Gewirtz. I don't know whose fault it is, but just a mess of wasted talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally, like, a lot of people are complaining about how, like, Raw doesn't have the same talent as SmackDown, and while it doesn't, I think that they certainly have enough to make a go of it between, you know, Booker and Jericho and RVD and...
Well, if they had protected them and built them and done, yeah, but, I mean, they've made everyone, like, kind of boring and they made the whole show, you know, so hard to watch that everyone kind of gets, you know what I mean, painted with that bad brush.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you guys take it easy.
Okay, Todd, thanks very much for calling. We'll be back. We're going to be back with Shane Douglas in just a couple of minutes. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer Newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, and we are joined by, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Shane Douglas. How you doing tonight, Shane?
I'm doing great, guys. How you doing tonight?
We're doing really good. We're doing really good. One of the things...
You got the advantage on me. It's a lot later here than it is there.
That's right. But, Shane, you know, we wanted to talk to you about a bunch of stuff about what you've been doing. Of course, you're booking with XPW, and a lot of people know that.
Right.
Over, like, you know, you're very outspoken as far as the wrestling scene. You know, how do you look at, you got a lot of friends that are in WWE and a lot of acquaintances, and that are kind of on the independent scene. How do you kind of see the business in the United States right now?
I've seen it in a dismal state. I mean, you know, when you start to see necrophilia being played out on a professional wrestling scene, I can only shudder at what I'm seeing. I mean, I don't want to sound like Mr. Prude or pious or anything, but, you know, there are kids watching this program, and when we were with ECW, we did some pretty outlandish things, never touching necrophilia or anything approaching that. But you have to also remember, our show was seen very late at night. This show being seen, I believe it was 8:55 at night when they aired the necrophilia angle. And I mean, you know, I've heard so many things about Vince McMahon, and that this pretty much has solidified all of them in my head.
You know what? You know, you've worked for him in the past, and you've been around the business for, you know, just about 2 decades now, almost 2 decades. Right. You know, I mean, nothing that happens at this point, I guess, surprises me that much when things are down. You know, I mean, he's going to go to anything. So I think we've seen that.
Well, sure. I mean, you know, and I think that speaks pretty poorly for his business. Let's face it, with the talent roster that they have, and it's an impressive talent roster, if their writers, including Paul Heyman and the rest of the gang, can't think of something more genuine and more authentic than necrophilia and some of the other stuff they've been doing lately, then shame on them. I mean, it's time for Vince McMahon to shake the tree loose a little bit and get rid of some of that dead wood. And go to something new, because let's face it, I don't think those type of angles are going to be what brings this company back. But from XPW's standpoint, keep playing them out. Do necrophilia and everything else down the line, because I think those wrestling fans that are disenfranchised, no pun intended, will come looking for us very similar to how they did in 1992 and 93 when they started looking for ECW.
You know, when you know you're with XPW, and it's been very much of a controversial promotion. What in you know, like you were for a while there, and you kind of disappeared basically because of your WCW contract.
Right.
And what happened, and what made you go the route of XPW as compared to, you know, whatever else was out there, whether it be the Jarrett thing or you know, just going independent because you have a pretty big name, and you at least for a while, you know, you could have done pretty well in the independent scene.
Well, to be quite honest with you, it was sincerely what I saw the nature of the business. I looked around and I thought. I looked at NWA TNA. I'd spoken with them the better part of a year, you know, and knew that they were going to be going on pay-per-view if it came to fruition. And after looking at it and assessing it, I didn't quite, in my own honest opinion, believe that they had in that form. It's a very tough form, as you know, Dave, to try to make it in a pay-per-view form on a weekly basis. And so I thought it's either that route, WWE, which at that time I didn't think that they had a lot of steam leading into the future, or XPW. And with XPW, what I saw was a vehicle that I could go in and be effective immediately. I could go in and say, look, let's do this, and this, drop this crap and this crap and this crap, and let's see where the vehicle goes. And so for me, that was the main reason and the main impetus for me. Plus, I can say Rob Black was very generous with me.
Now, what kind of changes have you made as far as the booking of the XPW overall?
Well, I think one of the things that I've done first and foremost was to try to get some of these guys pointing towards their skills and their assets. I mean, if you look at the program before I came on board, a lot of the guys was being thrown out there in blood and guts and barbed wire and light bulbs and shopping carts, whatever else. And although I think there was a place for that, they kept XPW on the map for the first 2 or 3 years it was in existence. I saw a stable of talent that had so much more to offer, and I wanted to try to capitalize on that. I think we've been doing some of that.
Now, what do you think? So there's guys there. There's some guys there that people know that are brought in, and then there's some guys in there that if you're not a fan of XPW, you really don't know. And what are some of the assets of some of these guys that people may not know that you've been able to work with for the last couple of months?
Well, for instance, if you look at the Dead Presidents and Mexico's Most Wanted, I think they're 2 of the most impressive tag teams right now in the United States, possibly the world. I mean, they not only do they do some outlandish moves, but they also can tell a great story in what they're doing. See, that's what I look for whenever I look at a wrestler. Someone will come to me and say, hey, what do you think of this guy? He was on last night. I saw him do the Triple Lindy. Well, the Triple Lindy doesn't mean anything to me if you can't put it in a perspective to where it tells a story in the match. The Dead Presidents and Mexico's Most Wanted have been able to do that. We also have some young guys. Chaos. I think Chaos is a great young talent, very reminiscent of a Chris Candido at that stage of his career. We have Supreme, who's our version of Taz, for lack of better comparison. And all of them come with an enthusiasm that I've not seen since ECW. Every single one of them want to learn, want to move forward. Pogo, huge guy, is very eager to learn. And whenever I tell him something or give him some pointers, I can go out and watch that night and implement what it is I told him.
Now, travel-wise, schedule-wise, and things like that. Right now, it seems like you're doing about 1 show a month in Philadelphia. Is there plans on expanding, getting TV in new markets, things like that? What's kind of what are kind of the plans going forward?
Absolutely. In fact, we start television tomorrow in New Orleans. We've just finalized that deal. We're very close to finalizing television in Pittsburgh. We're very close to finalizing television for New York. Today it's not an easy sell because of what Vince McMahon puts out there. Most people, as I'm sure you're aware, Dave, most people equate wrestling with being Vince McMahon and vice versa. So when we go into meetings with some of these TV stations, the first thing we have to undo is to undo the stigma of the WWE. We're not going to do necrophilia, station manager, and things like that. So,
what are they? Do they tell you, okay, we're afraid of this, and this, or what are the things that they're the most afraid of right now in wrestling?
Well, they're very, very much afraid of. First of all, wrestling is, again, because they're equated with WWE. They see these declining numbers in the ratings, and so suddenly wrestling's not such a hot sell. That's the first thing you contend with. Secondly, they are very concerned that you're going to go out there and do something like necrophilia, and I'm going to keep hacking on that, but something like that or worse to try to outdo the WWE. And so what we have to do is go in and show them some of our past products. Plus, XPW, let's face it, has a little sordid past of its own. So for me, it's to go in and to undo the stigma of the WWE and what the wrestling business has become, to undo what XPW had been 2.5, 3 years ago, and to try to show them what we've been doing positively in the program as of late.
Now, what concern about blood?
Oh, yeah, very much so. I think since 9/11 last year, everybody's become really concerned about what's going to be put on the air in a sense of violence. And I can't say it's not a bad thing. I mean, I'm sort of eager to show that our guys can go out there and do it without the blood and guts, although I think if it's necessary in an angle, that we'll certainly go that route.
So do you kind of have it where, on TV would be more, wrestling-based, and then for, the XPW tapes, you put the bloody stuff on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's, again, because the station managers are very concerned with that, we're going to pay attention. And unlike Paul Heyman, who used to sit there and say, to hell with the station managers, it's my program, and would lose stations, we're not going to do that. We're going to game with our station managers and keep them happy because they're going to keep us on the air.
Now, you were in ECW right before it kind of went down, and, you were there when it was starting to go down, and, of course, WCW were there pretty much till the end. What did you learn from both of these companies, aside from, fiscal mismanagement, so to speak? But what did you learn from these companies as far as what you think fans don't want and maybe mistakes made in both cases on the way down?
Well, I sat back, and I've always prided myself in being a student of the game if that's possible. And I've always liked to sit back and watch what works and what doesn't work. And you're right, in both cases I saw a lot of things that worked in ECW's case, and I saw a ton of things that didn't work in WCW's case. WCW would have been dead years before it was had it not been for the deep pockets of Time Warner AOL. But I step back and I look and I see what really, when you cut away all the BS in this business, what the fans want to see is talent. They don't want to see somebody who's swelled up and overpaid because he's gassing to the gills, or they don't want to see somebody who's, because he's sleeping with the boss's daughter, getting a big push.
I wonder who that would be.
Talent. We know who I'm talking about. I mean, the fans, first and foremost, want to see somebody that's going to entertain them. And if you can do that, it doesn't matter if you're sleeping with the boss's daughter; they'll buy it.
As far as schedule-wise, I mean, how many shows are you guys planning, and what type of timetable do you have as far as like doing more of a schedule, or perhaps I don't know if you're even looking at the pay-per-view market?
Well, we're not looking at pay-per-view market right now for live pay-per-views because it's such an expensive venue to do. We do have a deal in place to air on pay-per-view tapes, which is a much more feasible money-wise way to proceed. As far as number of shows, we would ideally like to be within the next 6 to 8 months running 6 to 8 shows per month, and that would provide us with enough footage to run a lot better television. I think part of the problem right now we have is by running so few shows is we have to eke out every bit of footage to make the TV, and sometimes that some stuff should be cut out and can't be because we need the footage. So by running 6 or 8 shows per month, that will allow us to tape at least three shows, sometimes 4, and will give us an optimum number pieces of footage that we can use to put together a great show each and every week leading into the next month.
Okay, Shane, we've got to head to a break right now. We'll be back with more with Shane Douglas right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Observer Newsletter with Brian Alvarez of Figure 4 Weekly, our special guest, XPW booker Shane Douglas, who's been wrestling for about 17, 18 years, I would say. Is that about right?
Too many.
Yeah. What you broke in. A lot of people know you broke in with Mick Foley and also with Brian Hildebrand,
right?
And under Dominic DeNucci in Pittsburgh and everything. And all three of you guys, you all achieved a pretty good level of success in the industry. Mick ended up having quite a hell of a career for himself, and Brian did really well as a referee before his untimely death. And what was it? In most wrestling schools, you get 3 guys. I mean, the odds are 100 to 1 that any of the 3 are ever going to get anywhere. And you had 3 guys who all pretty much made it in the business. And I guess part of that's Dominic. But what do you attribute that?
I think pure and simple. We all 3 simply wanted it so badly. I mean, we would go back at that time. I can remember we would get to the training center about 7 a.m. and we would work out until 5 p.m. and Dominic would have to ask us to get out of the ring. We so much enjoyed being in the ring and just wanted to be in the business that that I think that was part of it. The second part of it was we had networked where if I had an opportunity somewhere, I would call the other 2. If they had an opportunity, they would call me, and so we sort of networked around like that, and I think it worked well for us. But most definitely the fact that we all 3 wanted it so badly. We all were such big marks and still are, for the business. And, Brian Hildebrand, like you said, his untimely death, he was probably the biggest mark for the business I'd ever seen. And I was so happy to see him get his break in the business because that's all he wanted. And, to see somebody have such an early death like that, it was such a horrible thing to see somebody go through. It was really great to see that he had an opportunity to have a really damn good run in the business.
One thing since we're talking about him, and you were at his benefit show and everything like that.
Right.
How do I say this? I mean, I spoke to him a lot over the last year of his life, and I mean, what a great guy. But I mean, like, he was someone who, I mean, believe me, he had enough to complain about, and if he had complained, it's not something where you go like, oh my God, what a complainer. And he never did. He never, he would talk to me. When he would talk to me, it was never about, my God, I may not be living much longer. It was always like, they're screwing with Benoit. You know what I mean? Right. That type of stuff is like, God, it's like, like the problems with WCW when you were there, and he would just go, God, like, can't our management get it together? He cared so much about the business. Believe me, if everyone cared as much about the business as he did, it would be incredible business.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely.
But with now, of course, coming in, what have you and Rob Black? Because of course, Rob Black had a very what can I say? His reputation in the business is certainly far from the best. And you know, he did a lot of things early on, and wanted to be a big time on the internet and a big time heel to everybody. And at what point, you know, when you came in, was like, did you go like, okay, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, but we gotta kind of go on a straight and narrow because you don't want to make everyone in the world hate you, or at least hate our company, put it that way.
Well, yeah, you know, I think Rob, a lot of the stuff that he did was based out of his inability to understand how our business works. And, you know, if he thinks that, you know, just go out and just pissing everybody off on site, plays the great heel, that's not the way to do it. You want to piss off the fans that are buying tickets, and that's the one that'll work. But, you know, I think Rob's intentions were well placed. He's like anybody else. Not understanding the business, he came in and wanted desperately to try to do something to make it work. And, you know, there were times, like whenever they did the puppy dog thing last year before I'd come on board, I called him and I said, what in God's name are you doing? And, you know, but what I will give him credit for is whenever I came in, instead of being, you know, the micromanaging boss saying, no, you can't do this and you can do this, he said to me, hey, look, here's the reins of it. I don't know. His exact words when he hired me were, I've spent X amount of dollars of my own money in 3 years of my life trying to make this thing work. I don't know how to take it any further. So if you can come in and help me move it forward, then here's the reins. And he's been pretty good in doing that. We've had minor, you know, I wouldn't even say them arguments, but minor disagreements over things. But every time I've said to him, the reason I'm thinking what I'm thinking, and explained to him my business sense for it, he's never once said, yeah, but. He's always said, okay, I understand, let's move forward. And I give him credit for that because that's a hard thing to do. Somebody that owns the company, everybody has their own opinions, and in this business, opinions die harder than the common cold does. And I've seen, you know, Rob Black take a backseat several times with his opinions. So in that sense, he's good to work for.
Do you have any idea how much you've helped business positively?
Well, it's hard to say dollar-wise. I mean, you know, we've expanded. Our expansion has doubled the size of the company. We'll be going back into Los Angeles here very shortly. We wanted to give that a break because they've been so burnt out, having run it for 3 years. We are going to be going into New Orleans part of the next 2 or 3 months. Pittsburgh we had envisioned being in Pittsburgh by December 7th was our target date. We're obviously not going to make that, but we're going to be close. We're probably by the beginning of February or March. And so in those sense, I mean, I've never sat down and figured out a dollar figure to what we've contributed. But I can say this, we've put together a team that will enable us to move forward. We have a surprise announcement coming at the Philadelphia show for all the fans that will be, I think, shocked to say the least as to who we've hired.
Mm-hmm. Are there any, you know, as far as talent out there, are there any guys out there that you're really wanting to bring in, guys that you've seen before, or guys that...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think Mike Awesome is one piece of talent that we definitely would like to get our hands on. I don't know when their 90-day clause is up. Sean Stasiak is another I'm fond of. I knew him in WCW, always seemed like a nice guy. I'm not one of these guys that sits there and says, hey, look, I had a disagreement with this guy. I tried to contact Scott Hall to bring him in. If somebody can do me good for business in the sense of putting asses in the seats, then they're on the roster. It doesn't matter who I've had a disagreement with in the past or whatever. That was one of the things I never understood in all the bookers I've ever worked for, and them sitting there and going, well, I'm not going to push this guy. I'm not friends with him, or I don't party with him, or whatever. For God's sakes, if somebody can put rear ends in the seats, put them on the roster.
Let's go to Tom in Atlanta. Tom, you're on with Shane Douglas.
Well, Shane, a big fan of your work ethic. I was wondering, are you going to be in Atlanta, XPW?
We're certainly going to try. Atlanta's such a great wrestling town. You know, it's not on the horizon right now, but I can tell you that we've got people working for us in our television syndication group that's looking at Atlanta and several other places. So, you know, keep telling your TV stations down that you want your XPW to steal some of MTV's thunder, and I'm sure at some point we will get there.
All right. One question: how much is it of a concern of yours that, like Vince can like he's done so many times before, like pluck your best talent away and kind of like cut you at the knees before you get started? I mean, I know that part of the reason WCW went downhill was because of they had to use guaranteed contracts, and they basically had guys who did no work and got paid. So, is Is it a concern of yours?
I don't think that was I don't think that was Vince's fault. That was WCW management's fault.
Right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But, the point is well taken that a company, conglomerate as big as Titan Sports, could come in and chop us to pieces if they wanted to try. The problem is right now, they've got to focus on their own ratings. And as they're letting people go, I don't think they can really worry about pulling our talent in. And from the numbers I'm hearing, $75,000 and stuff like that is not going to be the kind of money that's going to lure somebody away. Because when we get up and running into 6 and 8 shows a month, we'll be able to pay that and more to some of our guys. But we are taking steps with contracts and what to try to stop that. But it's from the school of thought. You roll with the punches, and you get up in the morning and you make breakfast out of what you got in the refrigerator. So it's if Vince wants to come in and take our talent, I'm sure there's a lot of talent that he'd like to take because we've got a pretty talented roster. But if he does, we'll simply make do and go out there. He can't tie up everybody out there as he's showing right now by letting people go. So point well taken. We are concerned about it, and we are taking steps to try to make sure it doesn't happen.
Great. I wish you the best of luck. And if you do bring Sean Stasiak in, please, teach him some wrestling moves because Heyman said it best. Vince made wrestling a dirty word, and as a wrestling fan, that's what I most want to see is just really good wrestling action in the ring. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sandman will be retiring, right?
I'm sorry, say again?
Sandman retiring or whatever exactly it is on this coming Saturday?
Well, yeah, he's made it clear to me, at least, behind the scenes, that his body is pretty banged up and sore and doesn't really want to go on. I think, though, if he does take that route, that he'll still be involved in the company behind the scenes. He's gotten to a point where all those years of beatings with the stick and beatings he's given people with the stick have taken their toll, and we'll have to remain to see what happens at the end of Saturday. But I know that he has spoken to me about it, and that he's not really feeling the fire in his belly anymore.
What about you? I mean, you as far as like ups and downs and everything like that. I mean, what do you do, having been to where you've been, to stay motivated? In a business that at times, especially in the last couple of years, the business can be pretty depressing.
Yeah, it can be, and I think the only thing that keeps me running is the optimism that we can make it better. As I watch, I sit and I really have to force myself to sit and watch Monday night's program, and it's that really keeps the drive in me going, because not to sound a little bit more pious or whatever, but I think that in 1993, ECW started, and I honestly do believe that we really commandeered the wrestling scene in the States through the mid-90s, and Vince followed our lead. And I don't think, had he not followed our lead, that the wrestling business would have survived and gone to the heights that it did when it did in the late 90s. So I'd like to try to see us try to do that again. We'll, save the wrestling business one more time here in the States.
One thing, when the business was at its, pretty much low point, which would be, 93, 94, that was when a lot of new ideas came in and a lot of new concepts. A lot of the Flyers came in. ECW came in and brought in some small guys, brought in a harder edge, brought in a lot of different concepts to wrestling, which the big guys took, and it actually created the biggest wrestling boom short term ever in the industry. One of the questions that I have is, what is the new concept? Because one of the things when Paul Heyman and ECW did come in with a new concept, some of which had been done in other parts of the world, but when I look around the world, everybody everyone's pretty much struggling with what's the next way to make this business go, and I don't see an answer.
Well, I think to me that the old adage in wrestling is, don't try to do anything new because it's all been done. I disagree with you in one sense. I don't think that ECW originated the idea of hardcore wrestling. It had been done in Japan. It had been done to some degree in Florida and in San Antonio before that. Really, if you look at the old UWF, that was, in its time frame, was the predecessor, I think, of ECW. But I think now what we have to focus on is just going back to what works. I mean, let's face it, pro football today is the same pretty much as it was 50 years ago, and people still watch it. I think people today are clamoring to see some damn good wrestling, and they're not getting it. I sit and I laugh, and this is no disrespect to anybody, but when I watch the girls wrestle on the WWF, it looks like crash dummies. Yeah. And they just go in there and just throw themselves in any which direction. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Just throw yourself around on the ring. They see the guys go out there and they get, 30 seconds 90 seconds. One show I saw the Giant come out early in the night to save Pat Patterson with a strap. Why in the world a 7'4" guy would need a strap to run off two guys is beyond me. But then later that night he came back out and was a heel.
And he was standing next to the guys that he hit with strapped. We got to head to a break, Shane. We'll be back with our final segment right after this. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network. Okay, welcome to the final segment here on Wrestling Observer Live. We actually have a couple of minutes left. We're here with Shane Douglas, the booker of XPW. This coming Saturday night, they're going to be wrestling at Viking Hall in Philadelphia, which is the scene of some of Shane Douglas's most famous matches, including the three-way match with Sabu and Terry Funk that many say put ECW on the map way back in, what was that, about 93, 94?
94, yeah, February of 94.
That's right, early February of 94. With those, I think everyone that saw that remembers those interviews. It was that match, and then the interviews that you and Terry Funk did afterwards that really made people take notice of ECW. It'd been around for over a year, but that was the one where it was like, it kind of became major league, I think, through that.
Yeah, and at the time that we did it, I think I could, looking back at it, you could almost feel at the time that was putting us on the map because there was it was so genuine coming out of the match, and then what we did afterwards, it just flowed so easily. And, Terry was so good to work with at that point, and Sabu did the same. That, during the course of the match, I didn't realize how good it was. You get tired and fatigued. And I remember laying on the apron at the end, and I was almost disappointed that we didn't do better. And Sherry Martel came over and she said, "My God, look up. And I looked, and the crowd was giving us a standing ovation. And I think it was at that point that I really started realizing it, and then going back later and looking at the tape afterwards and seeing how special the match was.
I want to see if we can get Corrosive in Sudbury. You got like about a minute, so just go real quick. Actually, got about 20 seconds. One quick question.
Okay.
Go ahead, real quick.
Shane Douglas sucks, and XPW is really gay.
Well, that was your chance, and it was already over. Anyway, Shane, I'm sorry for that one. We are totally out of time right now. I want to thank you very much for joining our show, and we will be back next week with more Wrestling Observer Live, and we'll be seeing everyone Sunday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. You're listening to Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline USA Radio Network.